Last week, the city of Cape May lost one of its few remaining grand hotels. I'm standing near the remains of the legendary Windsor Hotel, and tonight we're going to present as complete and up-to-date a story as possible.
At 10:02 a.m. last Friday on May 18th, fire broke out in the slave quarters of the Windsor Hotel on the corner of Congress Street and Beach Drive. Flames spread quickly into both the Windsor and the Whitney House, and within minutes the Whitney House had collapsed to the ground. Firemen from Cape May, West Cape May, Wildwood Crest, and Town Bank battled the blaze for 2 hours, which had by then totally engulfed the Windsor. An unusual north by northeast wind blowing outwards to the beach kept the fire from spreading into a row of nearby houses, possibly saving entire blocks from being consumed in the fire's wake. Fire Chief Richard Deodati said that the heat was so intense that firemen had to soak their trucks to keep the paint from blistering. Fortunately, no one had been occupying the premises, and no serious injuries were reported. However, it was said to be the worst fire in Cape May in 45 years. Closed in 1973 for apparent fire code violations, the Windsor was owned by the Christian Beacon Press Incorporated, directed by Carl McIntire.
The Windsor was originally known as Bluff Cottage, a small clapboard house built in 1808. At that time, it was one of only 20 houses on Cape Island. It became a hotel in 1879 when its owner, Thomas Whitney, built 2 L-shaped wings designed by Stephen Decatur Button. It was a 3-story Victorian structure which enclosed 90 rooms and was considered to be one of the most significant pieces of architecture on the eastern seaboard and one of 3 remaining 19th century motels on the Cape May oceanfront. Former mayor and current president for the Mid-Atlantic Center for the Arts, Bruce Minnix, had these historical comments.
As much as I know, it was a wonderful, graceful lady that sat, I always, as a matter of fact, thought of her as kind of a Victorian dowager grandmother, sitting there watching the kids playing on the beach. I loved her. As I said, she was built in 1879, and it was traditionally in this century white with the maroon trim. Now, all around used to be, between those columns, a wooden chain-link fence, which had gone the way of all wooden things seem to go. Now, I know how she was named, as a matter of fact. The name Windsor Hotel, the Victorian vacationers in Cape May were great Anglophiles, and they loved England. When Prince Albert died, they wore black armbands in sympathy for Queen Victoria. And then they named this hotel in honor of the widow of Windsor Castle.
The Windsor's guest register is like a who's who of early 20th century America. Some of the people who vacationed there are Wallis Simpson, who would later become one of the most famous women in the world as the Duchess of Windsor, Gloria Swanson, Joseph Kennedy Sr., William Randolph Hearst, and Grace Kelly. The Cape May Library currently has on display an exhibit to pay tribute to the Windsor. We spoke with librarian Mrs. Elwell, who has lived in Cape May since 1926.
I did not go to see it burn. That was too much for me. I have a husband who has been a fireman for 53 years, and I do not like to see him operated fires. I went to one and saw things, and I never went to another fire in Cape May. I don't like to see things destroyed by flames. I'd much rather, I'm much more of a builder myself. And here in the library, you might say I'm a preserver. Consequently, we have this display. I was busy during the fire while it was still raging out of control because we were setting up this display, knowing that it would interest a great number of people. Our display, some of it has been on TV stations. My son called me from his home in Ohio. Apparently the fire had received national coverage, and he was, of course, concerned about his father. I feel I went to see the rubble after the next day. I went to see it, and it's a very sad thing, very sad, to know that such a beautiful piece of architecture, a part of Cape May history, is gone, totally gone. There's nothing to be saved. I may be wrong about that. There's one piece of bric-a-brac on the very front corner that was left standing. That's there. But what is that in comparison to such a grand old lady?
Mr. Blomkvist, how did this fire start, do you know?
We have no idea at this time how it started. No idea whatsoever.
There's been a lot of controversy over the years over this building, whether it should be saved. Do you think that it possibly could have been set by someone?
Well, there's always that possibility. And we all wanted to save the Windsor, and it's a shame. Thank God there was nobody occupying the building at the time so that there's no lives lost.
Do you think there's any danger of it spreading to other buildings?
I think the fire company has it pretty well under control at this point. By the looks of the motel on the other side, the Cape Motel, I think that's going to be okay. And the little Victorian home here on our right, looks like they're going to be able to save that. So I think we've got it pretty well contained. We've got an excellent volunteer fire company.
Do you know how the fire started?
No,
No idea?
I wasn't here. It was all fire when we got here. That's all I can tell you.
How about you guys?
That's it. Came out from the office, saw the smoke, figured it was going pretty good. So I don't know anything other than that.
Do you know?
What we're trying to do is just save the other buildings.
I don't have time right now.
Okay.
It's just very sad. It's very sad. It's been in such terrible shape for so long that it seems almost as though this might have happened earlier, but it would have been better if it could have been restored and we would still have it.
Mr. Parker, do you think this was an accident or?
Well, I've expected it to burn for 5 years. And it was just a matter of when somebody was going to set it, as far as I'm concerned. And I feel terrible about it. Really do. Very, very sad. Very sad.
You know,
How do you feel about the Windsor being on fire right now?
I think it's a drag. It's like part of your childhood going up in smoke. You know, every pillar, every inch. You know, it's a real drag. It really is. You know.
Before the fire, were you hoping that they would restore it?
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been neat. You know, I mean, the Windsor's been around since I can remember. You know, I was sunbathing in the pool just the other day because it's empty. You know, blocks the wind. But I don't know. It's a shame. It makes you want to cry. You just don't know what to say about it. And everyone just kind of walks around in shock.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
it is fairly well known that an ongoing battle has emerged between the city of Cape May and the Reverend Carl McIntire, who in the late 1950s acquired some of Cape May's most cherished properties. The city of Cape May has been in conflict with a fundamentalist minister from New Jersey over the tax-exempt status of his holdings. We spoke with a representative of Carl McIntire and with a representative from the city of Cape May concerning this battle.
We're speaking to Mr. Jim Nichols, who's a representative for Mr. McIntyre. And Jim, what are you doing today at the site of the Windsor Fire?
Well, I'm here sort of representing Dr. McIntyre and keeping my eyes on things and assisting with the investigators. Dr. McIntyre is cooperating fully with the investigators, trying to determine the cause of fire. We too believe it was arson, and the reason we're cooperating, we believe that anything the investigators can find will certainly prove that it was of an incendiary nature.
Jim, as far as we found out, the people of Cape May seem to be under the impression that Reverend McIntyre was solely responsible for this fire. Could you tell us your opinion?
Well, there may be a few that would think Dr. McIntyre is responsible. In fact, Friday, I came down from Washington, D.C. Friday, and I stood right in this area. And right about this same spot, some people said, well, that's good that this place burned down, but it's sure terrible about that house being burnt. And somebody says, well, that wasn't the house, that was part of the hotel. Well, good, I'm glad it's all burned up. That served the doctor right. Now, this attitude is lamentable. I mean, first of all, the hotel was one of the greatest Victorian structures on the East Coast. The whole community is impoverished by it. It's unfortunate that the news media has painted a wrong picture of Dr. McIntyre and tax-exempt properties. The truth is, when Dr. McIntyre first came into this area, the first property he bought is right down the street here at the Christian Admiral. It was a piece of property that was just, we'll say, a dud. Nobody could do anything with it. It was just a mess. And the doctor bought it up and started his Bible conference. He put a lot of money into it, and he showed some faith in this community. And at the dedication, he stated he was going to pay taxes to help the city. And in all probability, to this very day, he would have continued to pay taxes. But this building right here is the building that caused him to come to a decision that I'm going to refuse to pay taxes, because the city, he believed, was giving him the shaft. Now, the press has constantly, many times, has said that the doctor owes the city of Cape May $500,000, $700,000 in taxes. Now, this is not a fact. But the public has been brainwashed to believe that he owes all kinds of money in taxes. And this is why the doctor felt that passing the city of Cape May and passing this kind of fire insurance resolution, which they passed on May the 7th, could be the spark that would encourage someone to do exactly what's happened here now, burn this property, and thinking that from an insurance settlement they would be helping the taxpayers of Cape May. But the facts are there was no insurance. There's no taxes owed on this. I mean, taxes were paid right up until the end of 1978. And so has it been somebody who thought they were going to do the city and taxpayer Cape May some good in committing arson and burning it down? We don't know. This is why I appeared before the city council last night in their meeting. And I requested that they rescind this fire insurance ordinance before somebody else is encouraged to burn down some more of the city.
Mr. Blomkvist, what is the status of the recent tax-exempt proceedings involving the city of Cape May and Reverend McIntyre?
Well, right now it's in litigation, and we, the city, feel that at this point we'd rather not comment as pertaining to the tax exemption and litigation. Hopefully that'll be straightened out in the next year.
Could you explain to us about the recent fire insurance and what it has to do, what bearing it has on the Windsor?
Well, we have introduced an ordinance to help the city collect back taxes on any properties that should burn down or be destroyed. And what it will do pertaining to the Windsor, there is no insurance from what I can gather from what I read in the newspapers on the Windsor at this time. So, and our ordinance is not in effect until the 24th, which is today. So I don't see where it pertains to the Windsor whatsoever at this point.
What are the feelings insofar as putting another place or another building on the Windsor grounds?
Well, I had talked to one of the newspapers the evening of the fire, and I had indicated to them that it was very disappointing and a tremendous loss to the historic landmark to lose this old historic building. And the aim of the City Council would be, and the Historic District Commission, and I'm sure the Planning Board, would be to hopefully, if there is a new hotel put back there or a motel, that the front facade would be a replica of the Windsor. And there's no reason why this cannot be done, and that'll be the City Council's aim, and I'm sure everybody in the community would go along with it. And I see by reading the newspapers also that Reverend McIntyre indicates that he would like to see that. So I think we're all working towards the same avenue to try and recreate the front facade and of the Windsor, the old Windsor Hotel, in a new building. And hopefully it will be done someday.
What are your personal feelings about the fire?
Well, one of the problems, I think, is the fire chief has indicated, Barney Doherty, that the building was boarded up. The lower floors were all boarded up with plywood, and probably the fire had been going on in there for an hour before it really was noticeable. And probably got a good start in that respect because it was boarded up. And once it got rolling, there was no way to stop it. I think the fire department, the volunteers that we have in Cape May, is probably the finest volunteer fire company in the state of New Jersey. Just for them to save the other buildings that were so close, the old Victorian homes along the rear of Congress Street, was just an amazing feat by the fire department, and we were really proud of them, very much so.
One last question, Mr. Blomkvist. As far as the fire insurance ordinance goes, do you think that could give someone a reason to set another fire?
Well, there's been indications by Reverend McIntyre's following and followers that this possibly could have some effect, but I kind of doubt that. I really do.
Okay. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. What are your feelings about the Windsor fire?
Well, it's a real shame because it was a beautiful building. Years ago, it really was. It was a show place.
I think it's really a shame because I think it's a historical landmark, but I don't think there was much they could do with it either. I think it was pretty much beyond restoration.
I think it's very tragic to lose a hotel of that type and never get replaced. It's just one of those things that happen that in history that just disappears, and that's all. I think it's very tragic.
I hope it's not turned into a parking lot. There's nothing you can do about it now, but I felt really sad. I think a lot of people in town felt sad. It was like a grand old lady going down.
It's too bad that it couldn't have been restored. Seemed like it was almost there, but just really a shame.
It was inevitable. It was going to burn sooner or later.
Makes me really angry because I think that it might be McIntyre that did it, and I think that now something really big and ugly is going to go up there.
Really, I walk past there every day, and I really like looking at it and stuff. It was a really nice old building.
How about you?
It's a shame that such an old building had to be destroyed like that.
Well, I think somebody burned it down. It cost too much to restore it, you know. And they'll put a modern one up there now.
Of course, you can't forget about the Windsor Hotel. It's been here so long. I really loved it, too.
Currently, an investigation is proceeding into the nature of the fire to establish the cause of the Windsor's destruction. We spoke with Robert Elwell from the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office about the investigation.
Mr. Elwell, what kinds of things did you turn up in your investigation?
Well, it's a very highly suspicious fire, and at this time, the agencies that are investigating the fire, that would be the State Police Arson Squad Unit and the Cape May City Detectives and ourselves are pursuing it as an arson investigation. It's a very highly suspicious fire. The fact that it was burning and there was so much volume of fire in the first minutes leads us to believe that it was an arson type fire. We've dug through the debris down there. We can't say at this time exactly what started the fire. However, we do know that what area it started in, and the detectives in Cape May and the state police detectives are interviewing people, taking statements, and running down every lead that they have at this time. And hopefully, if everything goes right, that we may get a lucky break and make an arrest on this fire if we can indeed prove that it was an arson fire.
The Windsor is owned by Dr. or Reverend Carl McIntire, a man who has been the center of controversy in Cape May for years concerning the tax-exempt status of his religious organization. He is noted for his outspoken approach to current issues and espouses a solid conservative philosophy in the political, social, and religious arena of dialogue. 1 week after the blaze, Reverend McIntyre stood amid the rubble of the Windsor and delivered a fiery eulogy to a group of his followers and interested bystanders.
This is Queen Victoria. This is the Victorian period. This was named after the Windsor Castle of Britain. And that period in the history of this country was a benediction.
During his message, Dr. McIntyre spoke of his love for the city's historical significance and pledged his support of future preservation initiatives taken by Cape May to protect its Victorian heritage. Dr. McIntyre spoke out against the city's newly enacted fire insurance ordinance, citing that the fire was set 11 days after he called the ordinance an invitation to arson. He also expressed his desire to reopen Shelton College, operated by McIntyre's Bible Presbyterian Church, until it was ordered out of New Jersey over tax conflicts in 1972.
And just give us a little time in this town, and we'll have you 300 or 400 students from our churches, clean young people, standing up for our country and our flag, and young people who will go out and die in a war, if need be, for our liberty and for our country. We want young people who will have some patriotism in their veins and who will be willing to stand up for this great nation of ours and the liberty which we have. And it's my earnest desire that we may bring back to this city that college of ours.
Dr. McIntyre stated that the grounds of the Windsor will be used as a parking lot this summer, and that revenues derived from the lot will be used to pay taxes. After his closing prayer and hymn, the Reverend spoke with County Camera briefly.
Dr. McIntyre, on the question of insurance, there was no insurance on the Windsor, so it really didn't apply.
No.
Why was there no insurance on the Windsor?
Too expensive. My insurance on the Christian Admiral is $4,000, almost $5,000 a year. My insurance on the Congress Hall is, I think, $12,000 or $15,000. They wanted, I think, $20,000 or $25,000 for this place, and so we couldn't bear it. So we had no insurance on it all. We dropped it some time back. So whoever burned it up thought maybe the city might get some insurance out of it, but there was none here. But it's all right. It's all right. God will make up for it. God will take care of me. He always has.
During the course of its history, Cape May has been plagued by a series of tragic fires that have robbed this quaint Victorian town of its magnificent architecture. Architecture that has created an historic consciousness among the people here and has given national recognition to the city as an historic landmark. In 1856, fire destroyed the Mount Vernon Motel, which was projected to be the largest motel in the world at the time. The 1869 fire's greatest losses were the New Atlantic, the American House, and the U.S. House. Finally, in 1878, Cape May's worst fire turned the entire area from Congress Street to Ocean Street, from Washington Street, into a vast wasteland. In that fire, Cape May lost the first Congress Hall, which was later rebuilt. The Columbia House and the Atlantic Hotel were never replaced. Only the Chalfont and the Stockton Hotel survived.
Isn't it ironical that 1 century after the Great Fire of 1878, Cape May has lost yet another grand hotel to tragic fire?
The Windsor Hotel is gone. Another one of Cape May's architectural masterpieces burnt to the ground. What we've tried to do in the last half hour is pay tribute to the grand old lady of Cape May who is no more. There's not much consolation here, and maybe the bottom line is that if we want to preserve the past, we have to strive to do it in the future. Former Mayor Bruce Minnix probably said it best.
This is the challenge now for the city of Cape May, the local government, the people, all the boards and commissions of the city. We're going to have a new building, and now let's use our zoning ordinance and our restrictions to see that the building is compatible with its neighbors. It would be terribly destructive to the whole area, and this corner really is one of the best areas in Cape May. We can have such a nice new building there if they're strong enough to stand up against quick, easy profit development pressure.
This presentation was produced by the Video Production Center, a federally funded project designed to promote and cultivate community awareness and to provide to the people of Cape May County an alternative to existing metropolitan-based media. County Camera is regularly seen every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, right here on Channel 2. County Department of Public Affairs.